Hey folks, welcome to Wandering into Wellness. We're missing somebody, but we've gained somebody else. So Lydia, my buddy, is not able to be here with us, but here, not in her place as my co-host, but for the chat, is Dr. Melanie Joy. Thank you very much for coming along.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're obviously at Veg Fest today. That's your reason for being here. You're about to give a really interesting talk that I want to have a chat about. But give us an idea. Can you tell us what's brought you to this? Could you have expected 10 years ago that you'd be at this point, educating on veganism at a conference in Dublin or at a festival in Dublin? Does it seem like an obvious transition, or was it kind of like an A to B for you, or has it been very accidental, incidental?
It's probably a combination of both. I mean, I certainly had, my heart set on doing my best to make the world a better place. I decided to focus on animals rather than, or non-human animals rather than human animals as my primary focus. Not to say that I'm not interested in and active in social justice. I certainly am, but everybody only has so much energy they can dedicate to, a particular cause.
You have to sort of pick a topic.
You have to pick a topic. Yeah. And, when you just look at the sheer numbers of individuals who are being slaughtered and harmed, and the magnitude of the suffering, I felt I could do the most good focusing on farmed animals. So I knew that my passion was there. I just wasn't quite sure where that passion was going to ultimately take me.
Okay. And were you, as a kid, were you really like socially engaged? Did you have do you have a rural or an urban background, or what's like? How did you grow up in this kind of, with these thoughts? Were they fermenting early in your head, or?
I mean, thoughts are, thoughts about life and death and justice. I mean, they've been there for a long time.
Sure.
My family, I come from a long line of progressives and fairly politically active people in my family system, or most of the people in my family system are like that. So, from a very early age, we were having conversations about politics. I, was interested in issues of privilege and oppression. I ended up working. I spent, a very long time working. I was a professor. I taught courses on privilege and oppression. I taught feminism. And I was also very passionate myself. I was one of those people who really did naturally feel a connection with animals. And so for me, it was really a matter of when I was 23 and I ate a hamburger and got sick and wound up in the hospital.
I heard this on the troll.
That catalyzed my decision actually to really focus my efforts on helping animals.
Okay, wow. So that's really interesting, because it's kind of a dichotomy, isn't it? Because a lot of people would come at, it's usually veganism from one side or the other. They usually don't have the social justice aspect, or they either have that or this, an illness or something like that they find that they transform their health by changing.
I mean, there are a number of vegans who very much see the vegan movement and the broader animal rights movement as a social justice movement. And there are vegans. People come to this vegan movement from so many different backgrounds. Some people are attracted because of health concerns for themselves. Which is very valid. Other people are attracted because of animal welfare, fair animal rights concerns, and other people are attracted because of environmental concerns, and some people just see this as one spoke among many on a hub of a wheel that has that is social justice.
Just becoming more socially conscious, essentially. Okay, nice. And so when you're talking downstairs later on, you're talking a little bit about the message around veganism, right? Is that it? Around like how the message is like, what's the title of the talk again? It's like it's really
vegans
interesting.
And communication. How vegans can help or hinder the movement.
So is that about like breaking down the barriers, sort of thing, like less of an us and them approach, or what's it?
Well, yes, and not entirely. I give another talk specifically on vegan, non-vegan communication. My new book is actually on relating relationships and communication among vegans, vegetarians, and meat eaters.
Wow. Okay.
My other kind of hat that I wear is I've been a relationship coach for many years, so as a relationship and communication specialist.
Oh, wow.
And so I do talk a lot, and I have a number of talks that cover how vegans can communicate with non-vegans, whether people are vegan for animal welfare reasons or for health reasons, how we can communicate more effectively with non-vegans and kind of navigate those defenses. My talk today is vegans communicating with each other. And how to communicate in a way that helps to empower the movement and doesn't create an us versus them mentality within the movement.
Internal divides, which is the worst. It's the way every big movement gets picked apart, or every movement that's failed is being picked apart, isn't it?
It's not so much a vegan problem as a human problem. And
yeah,
it's a human problem that affects the vegan movement in pretty profound ways. And so it's important to address because, we are a fairly young, fairly small movement that's growing really quickly. And there's a tremendous amount, in my opinion, tremendous amount of energy is being siphoned off from the movement because of this way of interacting that is not healthful and productive.
The kind of internal struggle stuff, yeah. And so do you see, like, within other parts of the world, are you seeing the same sort of movement crop up? Is it largely a Western society thing where veganism is taking off, or is that trail being blazed elsewhere as well?
Everywhere.
Really, is
everywhere.
it? So it's pretty global.
It is a global movement, and in some places in the world, it's younger, it's newer than it is in other places. In some places, it's obviously more established, but. The vegan movement is probably, in my opinion, in my experience, and I've been to 40, this is my 43rd country now, Ireland.
Okay, wow.
So I've traveled quite a bit and been to a number of countries multiple times, and whenever I travel, I'm having conversations with people in positions of leadership in the vegan movement. And also often with a lot of non-vegans, people who work for the media and interview me or whatever. And I have not witnessed a single exception to the fact that the movement is growing everywhere.
Right.
So either it's really in its incipient stages, as it is in like South Korea, that people are starting to have the conversation. Vegan restaurants are starting to pop up that aren't just Buddhist restaurants. Or it's really a robust movement like we see in Tel Aviv, in Israel and in Berlin, Germany, and the U.S.
And so you live in Berlin.
I do.
When did you choose to locate here? Is your husband or partner from Berlin, or
he's German.
He's
That's
German?
why I moved there.
Okay. It wasn't around like, oh great, this is like a vegan stronghold, because it is a vegan stronghold. It's amazing.
It was a combination of things because he was also my colleague. So it was it made sense for the work that we were both doing strategically for me to be working from Berlin. And of course, one of us had to move. For the relationship, and it was just made more sense strategically for me to go there than for him to come to Boston.
And do you guys have kids?
No.
Okay. And so, in terms of future dynamic around veganism, and I know there's a real tension around governments really stepping in to change whether people are allowed to raise kids as vegans. How do you feel that conversation is evolving? And is it something where are there barriers being broken down? Do you know many vegans who are in government? Are they quietly, in any of these countries, or is there are there barriers that are being broken down there, or is it walls being built up?
Both.
Both
are happening. There are barriers being broken down. More and more individuals choose to become vegan for a variety of reasons, and these individuals work in a variety of spaces. And some of them are in government and are really kind of actively trying to offset the dominant carnistic, animal-eating bias that's saturated all social institutions, government notwithstanding. And of course, there is, resistance to veganism. There's a backlash. Backlash is the reaction of the dominant culture of threats to its power. And as the vegan movement gains momentum and gains power, carnistic industries and institutions are not going to just, roll over. They're fighting back. Some of them, more innovative ones, more innovative companies, for example, are starting to, shift from producing animal-based proteins and animal-based food products to more vegan products.
This is really interesting.
But there's definitely this dance happening.
I guess it's always the way when, we've seen it with the American Heart Association study around coconut oil. These sorts of last throes of a kind of a slightly dying entity, or what feels like a dying entity. That there's still a strong hegemony there. They're still kind of essentially in power, but the sense that you feel like there's kind of a clutching at straws going on, and you certainly feel like the evolution is happening, ready or not, sort of thing.
Absolutely, clearly it's happening. I've no question that this is a movement, a consciousness that is the trajectory is heading in the right direction. And so my work has been on the psychology, primarily on the psychology of eating animals, on Carnism. The invisible belief system that conditions people to eat animals. And I've written and talked a lot about how carnistic mentality, we inherit this carnistic mentality that teaches us to, distorts our perceptions, disconnects us from our natural empathy for animals and, our rational thinking in many ways, and causes us to act against our interests and our values and the interests of others. That this mindset is slowly but surely becoming destabilized as more and more people step outside of the carnistic box, so to speak, and start to see more clearly and more rationally what's going on, what's happening to animals, what's happening to our bodies when we put these products into them, into the environment.
Okay.
They're really starting to demand change.
Yeah. So like within that, I mean, people who are speaking from maybe not even the other side of the fence, but some like nutritional scientists who I know would say that, humans are part of this natural cycle that involves consumption by another thing at some stage. Candida inside our bodies is designed to consume us from the inside out at the end of our lives, and unfortunately these days consumes us a little early. And at some stage there's this birth and death thing, and that there's a sense of maybe that part of nature is being left to one side, and that we're trying to treat nature as a Care Bears environment, which it isn't. It's a pretty nature is a fairly tough thing when you see it happening in reality. Do you think when we kind of like move ourselves out of that, how is it kind of not moving ourselves away from nature to a degree as well? Does that make any sense?
Well, I think
I'm sure it's a point you've heard before.
a couple of things. We have to be really careful with what we define as natural.
Okay.
We're looking at this whole concept of what's natural and what's historical through the lens of Carnism.
Okay.
And so you can look at atrocities throughout history, human history, have been waged based on the argument that it's natural for one group of humans to exercise, power and control over another. And so this is what we learn in our history books. We've constructed this whole idea of how we're supposed to be. This is the way it is. Okay. This is the way it is, based on our current mentality and the dominant system that we're a part of. So, so it's a tricky question. And, there are many people today, as more and more people step outside of this carnistic bias that they don't even, that most of us don't even see. Most of us don't realize that when we study nutrition, for example, we actually study carnistic nutrition.
Okay, or there is a bias, an inherent bias. Yeah.
Built right into the system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like studying racist medicine in the past, where people would, conduct studies that simply verified their existing assumptions. And then justify them based on science.
Yeah.
So as more and more people step outside of this carnistic box and are conducting more, less biased research, there is more and more evidence demonstrating the benefits of a plant-based diet. And there are a number of people who say, with a lot of conviction and a lot of very good research behind them, that the natural diet, a more natural diet, is a vegan diet.
Yeah.
I think even were it not the case, I mean, we're sitting inside of a heated institution right now, a heated building right now, and if we really feel so strongly about getting back to nature, then we need to do away with the vast majority of the things that we have constructed.
Big time. This is why it's part of quite a scary thing, isn't it? I mean, like we were at a talk, was on a panel, a zero waste panel last weekend, and they were talking about how in Kenya, I think it was in Nairobi, where they'd attached a ban, like a $30,000. I mean, it must have been local currency. Fine for littering with plastic bags, and this member of the audience posed this and said, like, is this do you think this is the way we should go? And kind of I just said, like, I don't know if we have the time to do anything else. It's so, we're so late in our ability to turn around and make change. But do you think that veganism actually can help on that front? Because I think there's a lot of myths thrown around from both sides as per the greenhouse gas emissions of cattle versus, well, cattle are particularly bad, I suppose, as feed converters go, but of a lot of other different, like, say, carnistic or animal species that are used for food traditionally, versus the kind of possibilities to get our protein from other sources, I suppose. How do you feel about that? Is that an easy debate? Is it something you can actually see clear lines in yourself, or do you think it's still kind of, there's a lot of unknowns there?
Well, I mean, people have to, in order for people to have a productive conversation that leads to greater understanding and, positive change, they have to be operating from the same set of facts.
And, that's a big problem.
And facts are facts. Facts are not subjective. They're not. Therefore, they're not debatable. How we decide to act based on those facts, the meaning we make of those facts, that's subjective. But facts, by definition, are objective data points, and we have those. The only reason this conversation about, whether reducing, nobody, to my knowledge, even people who aren't, not vegan and not even supportive really of veganism, I don't know anybody who does not agree with the fact that animal agriculture is a leading cause of environmental degradation. The debate is generally about how much of a cause it is.
Yeah, and the method in which it's done, I suppose. So that's a large
there are
part
multiple methods in which, I mean, there's you know, it's what has become a debate has become a debate in large part, if not entirely, because the facts that exist have been repackaged and questioned in a way to raise controversy where there need not be controversy.
Cool. I totally I buy that. I would say there's a little bit of that on both sides to some degree, but I agree with you. I'm not speaking from either side of the fence here. A very easy position to be in. But what would I say? So like future-wise, let's say there's huge progression in terms of veganism. Like one of the things that I'm concerned about is what happens to the animals, what happens to our grasslands, what happens to the soil fertility, which is wild animals, that sort of all these kind of large grazing herds, all these things that, I mean, we can't populate those things in 5 to 10 years.
We're also not going to be changing our diet dramatically enough in 5 to 10 years.
Do you not think so? That's interesting.
I mean, the more farmed animals are slaughtered in a single week than the total number of people killed in all wars throughout human history.
Wow.
And we're talking about like a multi-billion-dollar global industry that's existed for a very long time. So 5 to 10, I mean,
it's not the sort of thing that you're going to see a rate of change from that point of view anyway.
No, I mean, it's an unrealistic scenario. Yeah. And so I don't think it's, I think a more productive, way to move forward around this issue is to really simply ask ourselves, we know that eating animals is a direct contributor to environmental degradation, to human health problems. Mm-hmm. This is not disputable. The question is how much of a contributor, but everybody is in agreement that it is a contributor and a significant contributor. And this is on, quote unquote, both sides of the discussion. Nobody disagrees about that. So we know it is a direct contributor to environmental degradation, a direct contributor to some of the most prevalent and dangerous diseases we have in the world today, in the West in particular. And we know that it is a massive factor in animal suffering. So these are indisputable truths. So I think the question for us is how much can we reduce our participation in this atrocity? Okay.
So like there's, I don't know, did you see the Simon Amstel kind of like a kind of mockumentary? You heard about it?
I know it, but I haven't watched it.
What's it? Not Carnism. It's something like that. It's called Carnivore or something like that. But Carnage, actually, that's it. But in it, he kind of presupposes like a world that has gone vegan in I think it's 50 years in the future, and I mean it looks great, but I think it's interesting to see how much we can't quite imagine. I don't know. Do you have a sort of a vision how it can be a vegan world, and how our interactions with other animals will be within that, in terms of a wild animal, domesticated animal? What will there be such things as domesticated animals, or where?
I don't know that anybody has that answer, because we're going to be in a very different place in 50 years than we are now.
Big time.
We're going to be in a very different place. I think we're going to look back on this time, and see the sheer, the brutality of the way that we live, the way we look back on the Middle Ages and say, how did people do that? How did they live like that?
It's a fascinating time to be living, isn't it? A great thing you're doing, and I believe the education you're giving is fantastic. I'm so interested to see where this goes. I have a lot of vegans I employ as well, and we have a very broad-based kind of approach to it, where we kind of offer as much as we can both sides. One thing I've seen a lot is where vegans who do it well do really well, in terms of the choices of nutrient sources, which is can be a big issue, vitamin K, B12, D, these sorts of things. But one thing I have seen a fair bit, which I'd love to hear what your comment on, is that vegans can do quite well until a point of stress comes, and then some things like particularly stores of B12 I've seen in a few different vegans where they've gone through super emotional stressful periods, loss of a loved one or something like that, and they haven't managed to recover B12 levels. Do you recommend certain kind of types of diets or choices of supplementation or approaches that kind of help to combat that? Or
my doctor in the U.S. who's not vegan, when I was there the last time and getting my, just getting a checkup and getting my blood done, and I said, "Are you worried about me?" She had a look on her face. She said, "No, you're vegan. I never worry about my vegan patients. It's my non-vegan patients that I worry about."
Okay, yeah.
And she's not vegan herself, but she understands that you're more likely, all things being equal, you're more likely to eat a healthful diet if you're eating a vegan diet.
It's the truth. Yeah. Statistics definitely.
I mean, statistics demonstrate this, and so you can, if you're a junk food vegan and you're living on French fries and vegan pizza, you're not going to be thriving. Physically thriving.
Yeah.
And many people who are not vegan live like that.
It's the truth, absolutely.
Hamburgers thrown into the diet. So
the choice of being healthy or unhealthy is not vegan versus non-vegan.
It's how you eat. Period. And there are plenty of people who are not vegan who have problems with B12 and need to get injections because a lot of the problem when it comes to B12 is the body's ability to absorb it. So I think it's really important for us not to kind of pathologize vegans or look at the vegan diet as inherently lacking. And for me, I do take B12 supplements because the food that we get today, and I probably would if I were not vegan too. I would supplement whether I'm vegan or not, because the food supply today does not have the level of nutrients that it used to. So I'm careful to do that, and I think that's important for everybody to do.
Cool. Nice one. One of the things we talk about a tiny bit in the shop, and I brought some along today, are using kind of edible flours and concentrated sources of nutrition. Vegan or non-vegan doesn't matter, but I think edible flours are they're the supplements of the future to a degree, because they grow like wildfire. Like if within this space that I have a small garden, but you might have 300 nasturtium flowers. Yeah, we need to roll.
It's okay. Sorry, I have to talk in a few minutes. So.
Yeah, I don't want to hold you up. But I think there's this augmentation that needs to kind of take place, but it'd be really interesting for it to take place, where people start to look at the movements along growing your own, adopting a plant-based diet, all kind of tend towards health, and I would really like to see that become part of the movement, that one did mean the same thing. But who knows? It's a fascinating time and really interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
And there's a natural overlap. I mean, compassion toward I'm a whole foods vegan to the best of my ability to be. I eat as many fresh whole foods as I can.
Travel a lot as well. So it's got to be challenging.
It's challenging for sure, but I'm really committed to eating healthfully. Eating healthfully, part of eating healthfully for me is eating a vegan diet. It's not including, carnistic products in my diet. And these are, it's a false dichotomy to think that somebody is either, vegan for the animals or they're vegan for their health. We are animals too. And it's, veganism is it's a value-based practice, it's practicing the values of justice, which is fairness, and compassion, which is kindness. And when you practice, compassion toward yourself, you're treating your body the way that you want others to be treating animals' bodies, treating the world. So I see no conflict between these, kind of two quote-unquote approaches to veganism. They're very much united in my mind.
Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. Melanie, thank you so much. I won't hold you up any longer. I know you got to get down and give a talk. Really, really excited to hear your talk as well. We're going to go down and have a listen to it now and enjoy nasturtium flower.
Thank you.
I'm going to say bye-bye. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, post your comments. We always give you lovely goodie bags out with lots of Muses vegan protein and all sorts of good stuff in there. So stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.